My guest today is Simon Ree, the author of the #1 best-selling book, Tao of Trading: How to Build Abundant Wealth in Any Market Condition. He has 3 decades of experience as a trader and financial markets professional, having previously held senior positions at Goldman Sachs and Citibank. He is also the founder of taooftrading.com, an online education company that has helped thousands of aspiring wealth builders learn how to use the financial markets to generate their desired wealth. In today's episode, we talk about why most people fail at trading and why they don't have to. Welcome to Lifeology.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
I am looking forward to this. We were talking in the pre-call, and you were in Singapore, and it is 11 p.m. there. Yeah. 12 hours in my future, if you will. So I really appreciate your flexibility coming here today and talking with us about this. So thanks again.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'm bunkered down in the guest bedroom at the moment. I'm trying to hide from kids waking up in the middle of the night so we don't get disturbed.
We'll be really quiet. I have 2 little dogs here, so it's they may make noise as well. Now, you've done a lot of things. How did you even get into the financial market or industry?
Yeah, so I was in my second last year of high school in 1987 when we had the historic 87 stock market crash, Black Monday. I had a really cool economics teacher in high school, my second last year, and he really kind of lit me up in terms of my interest in financial markets. And I didn't have any money in the markets back then, but I just found the whole episode fascinating, riveting. And I just said to myself, I don't know, 15, 16 years old. I said, yeah, I want a job in the stock market one day. And that became my goal pretty much there and then. So I studied finance and economics at university and had a couple of banking jobs before getting into the stock market, working at Goldman Sachs and kind of making that dream a reality. And it's been a lifelong passion, really.
Yeah, you're actually the first person I've ever met who is in their teenage years who said they want to be in the stock market. I've never heard that. So I've heard it on the other side after they've been through university and all that. So it's really interesting to see that you were something you wanted to do and you're able to actualize that as well. Now, if I remember correctly, you were in Sydney, Australia, and then now, as we know, you're in Singapore now. So you've done this in an international markets.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that something that let me back up. Is that stocks are very different and they're often the same. So there's a world market and then there's, you're the expert here, and then there's country markets, et cetera. How do you find it's different working in Singapore right now? Obviously the huge finance capital of the world. And then obviously the difference between here and the US.
So it has a slight impact on my lifestyle. I trade the US market exclusively. The US stock market is by far the biggest, most liquid. It has by far the greatest opportunity set. So that's the market that I focus on. But of course, the US market opens at 9:30 p.m. and shuts at 4 a.m. my time. So I can't day trade. So all of my, but neither do I want to. I'm not interested in being stuck at my screen all day. I do all of my research and make all of my decisions when the market is closed, and really I just trade that first 30 minutes or 60 minutes of the open.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. When you look at all of the stock market, what are some of the big myths that people struggle with, or just the frustration that they have regarding the stock market?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many, and they've all really been invented and perpetuated by Wall Street. Wall Street wants people to find the stock market mysterious and difficult, and they've created an entire lingo to make people who are on the outside feel as though they're on the outside, and make people feel as though they don't have access to the right information. And so you get lots and lots of myths that get recirculated to the point where people just believe them. They just take them as truths. One common myth is that 10% per annum is an amazing return, and you couldn't possibly expect to get more than that without taking on ridiculous amounts of risk. And it's nonsense. I mean, 10% per annum. Look, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's a bad return, but you can do a lot better than that if you apply knowledge and consistent effort. The things with 10%, right? 10% per annum is approximately the long-term average return of the S&P 500.
Okay.
Now, if you're young, if you're in your 20s, and you start putting money to work, compounding at 10% per annum, yeah, it can work beautifully. If you've got 30 or 40 years ahead of you, that magic of compound interest will unfold. But if let's say you're in your 40s and you don't have a lot of money saved up, it's not really going to move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
10% per year works for you if you're young or if you've already got plenty of money saved up.
Sure.
If you
Okay.
can't tick
That
one of
makes
those
sense.
boxes, it's unlikely
Mm-hmm.
to make life-changing results for you.
That's really good to know. So my younger viewers and listeners, be sure to think about that. Obviously, follow Simon Reed and go to taooftrading.com. Now, is there a certain type of personality that would be really good for trading? Because I work with so many types of people, some really studious people, some people who aren't as studious. And so there's all different aspects of a personality type. Is there a specific type that does really well with this?
Look, it's really, we've got people who've gathered success in markets from all walks of life. I mean, we've got in finance industry people in our programs, but we've got yoga teachers, we've got engineers, we've got school teachers, we've got computer programmers, we've got housewives, we've got retirees. I mean, really every walk of life and from over 40
Mm-hmm.
countries around the world now. I think
Wow.
the key characteristics are the ability to kind of put your ego to one side. Having
Mm-hmm.
a strong ego it can be problematic, and consistency is it's like anything in life. Consistency is a
Sure.
superpower,
Yeah.
and the same reason most people fail at trading is the same reason most people don't have the body that they want. That they just don't apply that consistent effort.
Fair. Yeah, it is interesting when people say they have these goals, and those goals may be great, either financial goals or physical goals, whatever it may be, but you'll know how vested, if you will, for lack of better words, how invested they are in those goals when you see what their finances are right now, what their physique is right now, because there's a difference between having that, but if we don't put the action behind it, then it's just simply a goal. It's just simply a wish, rather, and not really, there's nothing tangible behind it.
Yeah, that's a really great point. The difference between a wish and a goal is
Mm-hmm.
whether you take consistent action or not.
One of my favorite quotes is the last person in the race beats the person on the couch. And so it's a great analogy, a great metaphor that you just doing something a little bit more than you did the day before, whether that's maybe investing or that's being mindful of your nutrition, whatever it is, but you're doing something a little bit more. And so you may be the last person in the world's race, but for you, you are winning because you're doing something greater than you did before.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that analogy.
I want to transition into your education program, the online trading, not online trading, but the school you have that helps
Mhm.
people. That's taootrading.com.
taooftrading.com. So we've built a curriculum that it's a self-paced curriculum that people can study
Okay.
online, and it's really aimed at beginners. It's aimed at
Okay.
people
That's
who
great.
don't know what an option is. That they may
Mm-hmm.
never have looked at a share price chart, and we break everything down. And the methods we teach are very visual. Our charts are
Okay.
very
Good.
colorful. I teach a technique called rainbow logic. And when you see the colors
Nice.
of the rainbow
Interesting.
lined up in the correct order, you know exactly what to do.
Uh,
And so we
huh.
try to make trading as intuitive as possible, as visual as possible. And people, when they've been through our course, they can look at a price chart and within a split second know whether they should be buying, selling, or just avoiding it altogether. We use
Wow.
minimum amount of jargon. There's no complex math or anything like that. So it really is accessible, and I think we've tried to make it as engaging as possible. There's over
Yeah.
25 hours worth of content in the academy,
Wow.
and we've had members go through it in a single weekend. I mean that would be the exception. Most people would spend a few
Sure.
weeks going through it, but yeah, we've had people just devour the content.
And the objective of the curriculum is what? So let's say me coming in, not knowing anything. The objective is that once someone goes through your academy, what's the objective of the quote finish aspect of the learning process?
Well, at the end of the learning process, they should have an options brokerage account open, funded, and have the knowledge and the confidence and the belief in themselves to start making trades and being
And
consistently profitable.
yeah, and it's interesting because there's, as you said at the very beginning of this, there's so many people who have a fear of it because it just seems so complex. Or you see, like you said, people on like the Wolf of Wall Street or different movies where like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to get in trouble, but yeah, I want to get this, and we all have these dreams of wanting to be successful. but I think there is that stumbling block, that initial stumbling block for most people, that it's just too overwhelming. So I'm really glad to hear that your academy really debunks that, and also creates such a visceral or such a wonderful learning opportunity for people to go from hardly nothing to having such wisdom.
And it can be scary. And the other way that we tackle fear head on is we really emphasize risk management. In fact, I say to my
Mm,
members, don't even think of yourself as a trader. Okay, think of
yeah.
yourself as a risk manager. In all of your
Mm,
self-talk, you're not a trader, you're a risk manager first and foremost. And what it ends up
I
doing
like
is
that.
it places a really high bar on trades that you may take. There's a really high bar in putting your hard-earned money at risk,
Mhm.
because and you're a risk manager. And really, if you're diligent and you're consistent and you honor the process and you follow the process, if you can learn the art of not losing money, success is almost inevitable.
Yeah. Wow. That's exciting. When I was reading your one sheet, or your press kit, and I was like, and I also went to your website. I was like, oh man, because you're asking the questions. Do you want to have a life that's different? Obviously, we all do. Do you want to be able to have, like, to work from home, but the trading and investment, that's something you can do from home with minimal hours, and having been able to expend it and have the time to do it. So it was really well written, for one, obviously, but it's exciting though, because what you're saying, individuals who don't have any knowledge of that, we make it very accessible. I think that's one thing that sometimes when people are in your industry and they teach, but they teach maybe at a maybe more advanced, even though they consider that an entry point, but it's not. And so some people just get overwhelmed, like, I don't understand it. So I'm looking forward to looking at this myself.
Oh, thank you. I hope you love it.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Let's transition into your book as well, The Tao of Trading: How to Build
Yeah.
Abundant Wealth in Any Market Condition. When did you write this?
When?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it in 2019. It was published in
Nice.
2020. Yeah.
Nice. When you wrote it, I always like to get the backstory of this. So what happened in your life that says, you know what, I need to write this book. This book has been in my heart for a while. I need to write it. Was there anything specific that happened in your life?
Yeah, look, there was a couple of things. I mean, I'd been working in the banking and finance industry for my entire career. I got to, mid 40s, midlife, if you like, started asking those
Mm-hmm.
tough questions. What are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
What's your marginal contribution to society? And I didn't really like the answers I was coming up with. And
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I've spent the better part of my corporate career helping people who are already incredibly wealthy stay that way, or get even wealthier.
Yeah.
But I've developed a really good skill set over these 25 years, and what I really want to do is put that skill set to use for people who could really benefit from it, rather than people who have, let's face it, really made it already. Now,
Sure.
in terms of writing the book, there are a lot of books out there on options trading already. There's hundreds of them. Why does the world need yet another book on options trading? Well, it's because pretty much all of the other books on options trading out there, and I know I've read a few, they are boring and they're difficult. And I thought that the world needs a book on options trading that is both simple
Sure.
and engaging. All right.
Yeah.
Um, and look, the book, it's 342 pages. It's not a booklet. And again, I've had dozens of people write to me and tell me that they've finished my book in one weekend or in a couple of sittings. A real page turner. You never hear people say that
Wow.
about options trading books. So
Yeah, you don't. That is amazing. Well, first off, it was a number one Amazon bestseller. So congratulations on that. So I definitely want
thank
to
you.
applaud you on that hard work. I mean, obviously it's done so well. So many people have read it, and so many people appreciate it as well. Now, when you read the book, what kind of format is it created in? So obviously it's a educational book, but do you break it down into different components?
Yeah, so it's called the Tao of Trading. In terms of the title, in addition to being a trader, I'm also a Jeet Kune Do instructor. And
Oh,
Bruce
okay.
Lee, he wrote a wonderful book called The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and so the title of my book is a tribute to that. But yeah, the
Oh,
Tao
nice.
meaning the way. I'm focusing not just on setups and charts, but on
Mm-hmm.
everything that somebody kind of needs to
Quality
accomplish
of
to
life.
become successful
Mm-hmm.
in this. So we're talking about emotional control, trading
Mm-hmm.
psychology, risk management, and then how to make it all happen, how to actually put these steps into action and make it happen for you.
I really appreciate that, because the philosophy of it, sometimes people just have the knowledge, but they don't understand, like you said, perhaps the psychology of something, or just beyond the, I read it, I do it, but they have the understanding. So there's a difference between that, like I said, the academic part, but also the understanding of how to actually assimilate the lessons, but also how to actually put them in place. And a lot of times people don't know when to do that. So it sounds like your book is wonderful at doing that.
Yeah, I give them the what, the why, and the how, and it's written in a very logical order. So I really
Mm-hmm.
advise people to read the chapters in sequence. So each chapter builds on the one previous.
Mm. When we were talking before about some of the myths or reasons behind most people not doing well and with training, can you give me a couple more? Because I have some ideas of what, in my own life when I first started, I was like, oh. But what are some reasons why, some other reasons why my audience might be like, oh, I can really relate with why I didn't do well?
So we kind of touched on consistency, and I think
Mm-hmm.
consistency, as I said, it's a superpower in any aspect of life, but none
Yeah.
more so than trading. Just that ability to show up every day, do the work, follow the process. Now, there might be days when doing the work only takes you 5 minutes. There'll be other days where it might take you an
Mm-hmm.
hour. But once you've grooved the process, on average, it should only take 20 to 30 minutes a day. So it's not a huge time
Wow.
commitment, but it does
Wow.
require commitment. I
Sure.
think the other big reason why people fail is the desire to be right.
Mm.
Most people would rather drink bleach than admit they're wrong. And that is a real
That's true.
problem in trading, right? Because as a trader, if you get something quote unquote wrong, it means you're potentially going to lose money.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people, they're so scared of looking or feeling stupid that if they get something wrong, if a trade moves against them, they'd almost rather just sweep it under the carpet than
Mm.
deal with it. Now, in trading, it's so important that we learn how to stop small losses from becoming big losses. All right,
Mm-hmm.
because losing trades are just part of the game in trading. And one
Yeah.
area where trading is very different from real life, if you're right 60% of the time, you can make a really good living. Whereas you translate that into real
That's great.
life, if you're right only 60% of the time, if you're wrong 40% of the time, your boss is probably going to have a hard word with you. Maybe you get the sack, or, it's probably an unacceptably high error rate. But in
Sure.
trading, a 60% hit rate is really good, and you can make a really good living doing that.
Wow. And I really like the fact that, when someone just gets really more proficient at this, then yeah, if it only takes 20, 30 minutes to do, I mean, we all can do that. How have you noticed for you when you became really good at this, how did it impact your quality of life?
Well, it just relieves stress, and it gives you
Mm-hmm.
freedom. I mean, financial freedom's great. I mean, I was well paid when I was working for the banks,
Yeah.
but I was
Yeah.
stressed out, unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
working long hours, not sleeping well, not seeing my family, and not happy. All right, and
Yeah.
you realize that money doesn't buy happiness. Um, but with trading, I mean, you've got financial freedom, but you've also got personal freedom, because you get to choose how you spend your day, how
Mm-hmm.
you spend your time.
Mm-hmm.
So it can really fit in with other things that you got in your life. Now, most people, the vast majority of people don't dream of becoming full-time traders. What they dream of is having financial freedom. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And trading is a route to that. There are lots of people who, they've got a side hustle they want to start up, or they've got some entrepreneurial idea that they want to pursue, but they don't know how to leave behind the paycheck. That regular paycheck that hits the account every week or every month. How do you walk away from that? Well, trading
Yeah,
can
that's
be a
true.
bridge. All right. If you can start
Mm-hmm.
building an income, a side income trading, it may not replace your full-time job, but it may act
Mm-hmm.
as a bridge and give you the confidence to leave a job that you find uninspiring, or maybe you hate your job, and
Yeah.
then pursue
Yeah.
your passion project or your side hustle.
Oh, I like that. Some of my listeners and viewers, of course, they are single parents, work multiple jobs, don't have a lot of money to invest. Can you talk about how low, and then what's this, not really small, because I'm sure it depends, but can you talk about if people don't really have that much, is it still doable for individuals?
I'm going to say you want to have about $5,000.
Okay.
I reckon that is a good amount to start with. Now, I know of members who started with less than that because they've written and told
Mm-hmm.
me. The thing is, if you start with much less than that, it doesn't give you much room for error. You know, if you go into the
Okay. That's
market and you
fair.
have a few losers, it really will eat into your capital, and then you're going to have to rebuild it again. With
Mm-hmm.
$5,000, you can take a few positions, you can make a couple of mistakes, which are inevitable when you're starting out. It's like anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's a good size to start with.
Sure.
You can start with less if you want, but I think it's a higher risk move.
Sure. Well, and that makes sense. I mean, it does make sense because, like you said, you don't have the margin of error is much smaller, so you would lose much more quickly. Now, but as we've been talking here, obviously reading your book, The Tao of Trading: How to Build Abundant Wealth in Any Market Conditioning, or going to your website taooftrading.com and taking the course and learning all that, it would make more sense that obviously if you know nothing and all of a sudden you go through your course, you learn so much more, and so the likelihood of you having the same amount of loss that you did if you hadn't taken it would be pretty slim.
Indeed. And trading gets a bit of a bad rap because people look at
Mm-hmm.
brokerage accounts and say, "Oh, look at 80% of traders lose money. Therefore it must be a mugs game." And look, it's true. 80% of traders do lose money. So, why on earth would you get into this? Well, I think it's
Yeah.
because the barriers to entry are so low. Anybody can open a
Mm-hmm.
Robinhood account and watch the confetti fall when they place an order. And but just imagine if, like, when you want to drive a car, right? You have to learn how to drive a car and you have to pass a test. Now, imagine if people were just buying cars and driving them around without first learning how to drive and not getting a driver's license.
Yeah,
There'd
that's
be
fair.
accidents everywhere. Now, the
Sure.
thing is, you can open an options brokerage account without getting a license, without learning, without passing any sort of a test. And of course, if you start trading without first learning how to trade, it's also likely to result in an accident.
Yeah,
But
that makes
because
sense.
that's the route most people take, they think, "Oh, I can do this. I'll just buy whatever Jim Cramer talked about last night, or open the account," and they wonder why it's not working for them. And it's because I think there's just that huge gap in education.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I definitely want to endorse you. Unfortunately, our time is up. So, Simon Ree, if my viewers and listeners want to find out more information about you, to learn about your academy, and to purchase your book, The Tao of Trading: How to Build Abundant Wealth in Any Market Condition, where will they find all this information online?
Sure, James. If your audience head over to taooftrading.com // lifeology, that's taooftrading.com / lifeology, they can download the first chapter of my book for free. They can learn a bit more about me and our programs, and even get some discounts on some of our programs.
Wonderful. My viewers and listeners also know that if I can't find this information any other place, simply go to the show notes at jamesmillerlifeology.com, and I'll connect you with Simon Ree and all of his information. Simon, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest today.
My pleasure. Thanks, James.